Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to do the Popular Opinions book tag. This tag was created by Abby Salter and I was tagged by Paperback Empire. Of course I will link these two channels down below. And I'm actually really happy to do this tag because this tag was created to bring a little bit more positivity to BookTube and to just gush over some hyped books. Now I always think that there's some truth behind hyping something, whether that's a book or a movie, because that means that there is general appeal for the broad public, and that's not a bad thing, that's a good thing. I like most hyped things, so I'm ready to gush over these hyped books. And I'm actually surrounded by a stack of books, so no, I will not show you one book per question, I will probably show you 5. So without further ado, let's get into the first question. And that is, name a popular book or series that you absolutely adore. And the first one that comes to mind for me is of course Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. You can see some of them here behind me. I will not get them off my shelves because these are the Dutch editions, so you wouldn't recognize them anyway. But this is a huge fantasy series of 16 books in total. I have actually not read everything yet. I'm currently making my way through the 3rd trilogy, but everything that I have picked up so far I love. And I'm so glad that more people on BookTube are picking up her books and loving them as much as I do. Another fantasy series that I absolutely adore is A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. I am, of course, still waiting for the new release, but when that comes out, I will reread the entire series and love it again, because this is one of my favorite series of all time. I read it 10 years ago, I think, and I'm sure if I would reread it, I would still love it. So this is one that definitely deserves all the hype. And then another one, Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, of course. This is one of the first fantasy series that I picked up last year when I started to read again, and this definitely confirmed my love for reading and made me pick up more fantasy books, so that's something that I will always love it for. But besides that, I actually also really like the story of the entire trilogy. The next question is to show an underhyped book or series that you wish was more popular. Now, again, I have a couple. First of all, I have The Grim Company by Luke Scull. This is a trilogy that's very similar, in my opinion, to the First Law trilogy. So if you love that one, I think that you will like this one as well. And there's definitely more plot here. So if you like the characters from the First Law trilogy, if you like the world building, then you will definitely find that here. But if you wanted to have a little bit more plot, that's something that you will find here as well. I think that this is criminally underrated and I really enjoyed the entire trilogy. Then another one, and this one I will go over very quickly, but Juliet Marillier, Daughter of the Forest, the entire Seven Waters trilogy, you know this. This is my favorite book of all time, and I don't hear nearly enough people talk about it on BookTube. I know that Juliet Marillier is not the most underhyped author ever, but here on BookTube, she's not being talked about enough. Another series, Song of the Shattered Sands by Bradley P. Bolio. I've only read the first 2 books in this trilogy, but this is a trilogy. This is a 6-book series, and the 6th book is coming out this year, so it's a longer series than a trilogy, but it's worth it. Even though I've only read the first 2 books, it's amazing. There's a lot of political intrigue. This is set in the desert, and it's a revenge story. You have gods, you have a lot of lore, you have 12 undead kings. It's a lot, but it's amazing. So I wish that more people would pick it up, especially with the last book coming out this year. Another one, Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan. So this is a trilogy, but I've only read Bloodsong, and it's called the Raven's Shadow trilogy. I'm actually going to host a read-along together with 2 other booktubers for this trilogy, and we're going to start with Bloodsong in June. So I'm probably going to announce this next week. And if you're interested, then please keep your eyes open for that video, for that announcement, and join us for a read-along of this amazing trilogy, or at least the first book. I think the first book is out of this world. It's really good. It was in my top 10 of 2020 and it definitely deserves that. It's grimdark. It's amazing. Another one that I've talked about a lot that you can actually win through my last video, and that is The Chronicle of the Unhewn Throne by Brian Staveley. Again, an amazing grimdark trilogy with a quite unique setting where you follow 3 siblings who are completely different from one another, and I highly recommend this trilogy. So those are all of the underhyped books. Let's get to the next question. And that is, name a romance or mention a romance, love triangle or OTP that you really enjoy. Now, I don't know what OTP means, and I even tried to Google it, but I couldn't really find an answer, so I'm just going to go with what's a romance that you think is really good. And of course, the romance in Daughter of the Forest, it's my favorite romance of all time, but talked about that a lot. So besides that one, the romance between Sergil and Alec in the Night Runner series by Lynn Llewellyn is amazing. I am reading this series for the Scala Along, hosted by Andy Smith and Chris Bookish-Caldron. So they're actually the reason why I'm reading it, but yeah, the romance is why I'm so invested in this story. So if you like that, definitely pick this one up. And then another one that I really liked, and this is actually, I don't like love triangles in general, but here it's done well. The best that it can be done, for me at least, and that is Fox Mask by, of course, Juliette Merlier. If there's an author who could do a love triangle well, it's her. This is the second book in a duology. The first one is Wolfskin. So if you want to read this one, please read Wolfskin first. That also has a very good romance. This one is a love triangle specifically. Next up, I'm being asked what my favorite genre is and what a genre is that I would like to read more of that's also popular. So of course my favorite genre is going to be fantasy. In that genre I have two subgenres that I really enjoy. One is of course fairy tale retellings and the other one is grim dark fantasy. But lately I am also really craving more traditional fantasy. It's something that I haven't read that much of up until this point, so I really want to get into that a little bit more as well. And then for a genre that I want to read more of course, sci-fi. I recently picked up the Red Rising trilogy, and even though I didn't like Red Rising, I then read Golden Sun last month, and this is now one of my favorite books of all time. It's definitely the favorite book that I picked up in 2021 so far, and spoiler alert, this month I read Morning Star, and I might like it a little bit less than this one, just because the plot that's happening here is more to my liking. But Morning Star was also amazing. So if this is what science fiction has to offer, then I want to read more science fiction. So the next question is a popular character that I love. And if you don't want to answer that question, what is a character that you think deserves more love? I'm going to answer both. A popular character that I absolutely adore is of course Fitz from The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb, and also The Fool. Those are two characters that are just so precious and I would like to protect them if I could. So those are definitely two characters that are quite popular in the booktube community that I also love. Then for some characters that I do think deserve a little bit more love, first of all we have Rin from the Poppy War. Now, heads up, I have only read the Poppy War, so maybe she turns into a horrible human being in the next two books in the trilogy, but for the Poppy War I actually understood her and I could see where she was coming from. I thought that she was a very interesting character, so I don't really see or understand why she's getting all the hate that she is getting. Another character is definitely Yennefer from The Witcher. I think she's a very strong female character and a lot of people dislike her because of that. She's definitely a character that if I would meet her in real life I wouldn't like her, but in these books she's amazing, she's perfect, and I really do enjoy her. And then the last one is Jezal from the First Law trilogy, and especially in The Last Argument of Kings. I think he's an amazing character. I think he has an amazing character arc. Probably the best one in the entire trilogy in my opinion, and a lot of people find him annoying. He is a little bit, especially in the beginning, but I also think that he had a lot of growth and that he deserves a little bit more love. Then the next question is, who is my auto-buy author? And actually not that many people, because I'm still working my way through the backlog that I already have. For example, Robin Hobb is probably going to be an auto-buy author, but I still have so many unread books by her on my shelves that I'm not going to buy new ones immediately. Same for Juliette Merlier. Everything that I have picked up by her so far, I absolutely love. But I still have so many unread books by her on my shelves that I'm not going to buy anything more until I've read those. An auto-buy author for me definitely is going to be Patrick Rothfuss and George R.R. Martin. Like I said, if any of these two authors come out with a new release, I'm going to buy it, but my hopes are quite low at this point. And somebody that's definitely an auto-buy author for me is Catherine Arden. She is the author of the Winter Night trilogy. This is the first book, The Baron Nightingale. I absolutely loved this trilogy, and as far as I know, this one is her only works in adult fantasy so far. So if she would come out with a new adult fantasy standalone or trilogy, I'll pick it up right away. Next up is a popular book trope that I actually love, or a fantasy trope that I love. And I have a couple. I actually like almost all tropes because I think that for it to be a trope, it's been done a lot and that means that it works. And if it's in the hands of a good author, they can do something good and interesting with it. Probably the only trope that I don't really like that much is the love triangle. But besides that, I love animal companions, I love mentors, I love the chosen one, I love the farmer boy or the orphan who all of a sudden has all these magical powers or is the hidden heir of the throne. I love all of that. And yeah, I love the here comes the cavalry trope as well. I know that that can feel like a Deus Ex Machina, but if it's done well, it can really be so much action and really a plot twist that I just enjoy. So yeah, most tropes I actually really like. Next question is popular series that you're actually excited to start. Again, I have a little pile here, but I will go over them quite quickly. The first one is Discworld by Terry Pratchett. So I have The Color of Magic, which is the first published book, but apparently it's not the best book to start with. However, I have it now, so I'm going to read it. And if I like this one, I want to have like the nice hardcover editions. But yeah, I really want to get into this one because it's a lot of humor and just that typical English humor, if I'm not mistaken, with a lot of sarcastic and irony and stuff like that. So I think that this would be a perfect palate cleanser in between bigger series because the books are also like really tiny. Another one that I'm super excited for and I hope that I can start this year is The Rift War Cycle by Feist. First one is Magician. Like I said, I really want to get into more traditional fantasy. This is probably the prime example of traditional fantasy besides Lord of the Rings. So yeah, want to get into this one as well. Like I said, I really enjoy grimdark. So a grimdark popular trilogy I think that I want to get into is this one by Mark Lawrence. So the first one is Prince of Fools, and this is actually the first book in the Broken Empire trilogy. I have the first two. The first one at least is quite short, and I actually read the first chapter a year ago and was really intrigued. So this is definitely one that I want to start soon. But definitely the most hyped series that I want to start soon, and I hope in June or maybe a little bit sooner to pick it up, is Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book, The Way of Kings, of course. It's huge, so I'm definitely not going to read this in a week or something like that, but I do want to start and see what all the hype is about, and I hope that I like it, because Brandon Sanderson has been a hit or miss for me. Most books I really enjoy, but Mistborn Era 2 I didn't. So I hope that this one is a series that I will enjoy. And then the last question is a popular book or film where you actually loved both of them. So, I actually don't really have an answer for this one because I watched the Lord of the Rings movies and I absolutely loved them, but then I couldn't get through the books and that was a DNF. I read The Hobbit, it was fine, but I didn't really like the movies, so I don't really have a clear answer here because most of the time I either have read the movies and then read the movies. I've either seen the movies and then don't read the books, or the other way around. Pan's Labyrinth, for example, is a movie that I absolutely love, but I haven't read the books. So I don't really have an answer for this. I must say that I loved Game of Thrones up until the last season. The last season I do think was weak, but I also think that a lot of people forget that the first 5 seasons were amazing, and that just that last one that's not as good doesn't really undo everything that was amazing before it. So I actually do enjoy Game of Thrones. If I look at it as a whole, it's a very good series, besides the ending. So those were all of the prompts that I had to answer. I hope that some of this was exciting to you, and now the only thing that I need to do is of course tag people. Now, as always, I have a little bit of a hard time tagging people. I don't know who wants to be tagged, who doesn't. So I'm just going to name 3 people, and if you're not one of those, but you do want to do the tag, then let me know in the comments down below and I will look forward to your video. So just consider yourself tagged. But the 3 people that come to mind for me at the moment are Steve Talks About Books and Stuff, Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and Nico's Book Reviews. So if any of these want to do the tag, then you're free to do so and I look forward to your video. As always, I hope that you enjoyed my video and see you next time. Bye!